Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to check and make sure that we can be heard in the Zoom webinar.
I'm hearing you well, Sam. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm usually the host.
I think we are.
Indeed.
All right, welcome back, everyone, from our lunch break from the Board of Supervisors meeting here on July 19th. And we are back, and we're going to move on to item 7.3, consideration of resolution clarifying eligibility requirements for early activation permits in Lake County. And I will give the floor to our Community Development Director, Mary Darby.
Thank you very much. Hello. Oops, sorry. Hello, Mr. Chair and fellow Board of Supervisors. I have before you today a proposed resolution clarifying eligibility requirements for early activation permits in Lake County. This Board of Supervisors imposed a moratorium on the issuance of early activation permits for land use projects within the unincorporated area of the County of Lake on July 27, 2021. And on August the 31st, 2021, that moratorium was extended through July 24th of 2022. We're at a point in our season where the moratorium, the extended moratorium, is about to expire July 24th of 2022. And what this proposal is, this resolution, is to allow that the CDD department clarify what the early activation permits, what they do, and what they, and what early activation use and permits are. The reason you should have already had an ordinance for early activation. The CDD is moving forward with eliminating or rescinding the sections that deal with early activation permits. That's coming before you July 26. However, there is a section, a portion of time where the moratorium will expire before that ordinance come before you for review and consideration. And so during that time, CDD is requesting that you review and approve a resolution that would identify what early activation permits are and what type of early activation permits we could move forward. Early activation permits should only be granted if there is no construction, there's no removal of mature trees, and there is no grading. Currently, we do not have any early activations that are pending. All early activation permits have expired because they only are granted for a 6-month time frame. And so currently they have all expired. And we do have use permits that are still pending for review by our department to move forward for approval of use permits for commercial cannabis. But currently there are no early activation permits that are pending. So I'm before you today to safeguard, to ensure that the time frame in which I come back before you with the ordinance requesting the rescinding of the sections, that we just safeguard ourselves for that. I think it's about 40 days, because it's a 30-day review period, plus an additional week before I'm before you again requesting approval of an ordinance to rescind early activation use and permits.
All right. Any questions? Supervisor Sabatier?
So, turn myself off. This would be effective, as it says, as of July 25th, which would be the following Monday of this week, because the 24th is the deadline for the expiration of the moratorium. Then on the 26th, we would be considering the rescinding of the early activation from the current ordinance for cannabis cultivation, commercial cannabis cultivation. Then it would take another week, which would be August 2nd or 3rd, something along those lines, and then another 30 days from there, so let's say early September. You may not have requests for early activation currently, but between July 25th and September, I fear that you may get bombarded because of the history of what we've seen before in the past. So what I guess, I don't know that I can restrict it any further, because that would require a ordinance change itself as well. I would love to see more restrictions than just your typical early activation criteria, because that, as we've seen in the past, that criteria can potentially create some problems. And I see that as I see that as a potential problem for your staff with dealing with the potential onslaught of things to come.
I agree with you, so everything you said about the time frame, I agree, and then the potential for concerns about the time frame for the 40 days or so, I agree with that as well. However, in the past, we have accepted early activation permits when they were not eligible, and we accepted permits with the major use permit applications as a companion package, and they should not have never been accepted during that process. I don't believe from all of the applications that I have gone through from previous early use permit proposals that a lot of the applications do require some form of grading. It does require removal of mature trees, and it also may require construction. But of the two sections that I'm proposing that are rescinded, there is one section that deals with environmental impacts. And even if a application should come in for an early activation permit, I think that when we look at the three criteria, in addition to the adverse environmental impacts that could possibly occur on that particular property, I don't foresee, nothing's permanent, or I can't say that, but I don't see a project moving forward and being eligible for an early activation use of permits.
And I don't disagree with you that we were very lenient on our process in reviewing the criteria of early activation and who received early activations. But I worry about the time taken by staff to deal with even the rejections saying, no, this doesn't fit early activation. That's still going to require some staff time. I don't know if I'm allowed to suggest it here, but I would suggest urgency ordinance on the 26th versus a standard ordinance. That way it can be effective as of July 26th if it is approved by the board. That way we don't have that large opening and we can get to where I believe the board wants to get.
Ms. Grant?
An urgency ordinance under, are you talking about, if I may inquire, I'm sorry, Mr.
It would take
Chair.
a 4/5 vote if it is brought to us as an urgency ordinance requiring the change now, not today, but when it comes on the 26th.
There's a couple ways that you could potentially do that. One is provided under 65858, which is just to do a new urgency ordinance on a different basis. Here, it would no longer be the burden, the backlog of cases. It would be that a legislative proposal is wending its way through the process. You may be able to extend on that basis on the 23rd to continue the moratorium. Another option, if you're talking about something else for an urgency ordinance that have to be a statutory predicate, or you'd have to do it pursuant to the board's public health and safety authority under the Constitution, which I'm not saying you couldn't do, but you'd have to be able to verbalize the reason for that would justify an ordinance. Now, one of the things you might look at is the ongoing drought emergency, but that could have impacts elsewhere. So it would have to be grounded in both fact, but also according to a statutory predicate. And again, you have the ability to issue emergency actions, and it may be possible to devise a new and different urgency ordinance on the basis of the pending legislative fix. And in that case, then there's another step that I think the board may want to consider. We could formalize the entire thing to make sure that it's completely and thoroughly vetted. I can do that type of an urgency ordinance for you for next week. I'm looking at the statute to make sure that, no, again, it would be 45 days with an extension without a public hearing notice. So if your board would prefer to do that to keep the moratorium in place, I can put something together like that for your board's consideration with a plan of action for Ms. Darby's ordinance that would rescind permanently.
And that reaches the same goal that I was looking for, which is to prohibit the applications coming in that take up staff time, potentially getting rejected, but still taking up staff time versus the work that we really need them to focus on, which is delivering the products that they've been actually working on.
I understand, and I agree with the proposal.
All right.
If that's your direction to me, then it'll be on next week.
Yes.
Supervisor Pyska, go
So
ahead.
we'll see both of them next week then?
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
Well, just the urgency, right?
you'll see the urgency
The
next.
urgency, and then the following week?
July 26th.
Yeah, so we would see the moratorium extension for another 45 days, and we would see the first reading of the ordinance to rescind.
No, I think, I think you should do the urgency ordinance first and then put the ordinance on the following week. I'm also going to suggest that, since the record isn't too clear, there may be another step in there. I think, well, what you could do is the resolution of intention with the draft of the ordinance next week, and that can be ready to go. It's already been noticed. So you can do the urgency ordinance resolution of intention. Is that fine with everybody?
Okay.
I think we.
Yes.
I'm going to say yes.
Yes.
I know what I'm talking about.
I understood you from the beginning.
Very clear.
If
did.
that's your direction to me, then both documents will be presented for your board's review next Tuesday.
Thank you, Ms. Grant.
Does that work for you, Director Darby?
Yes.
I was looking at Director Darby the whole time.
No worries. I appreciate legal very much.
All right. So what I'll do here is, if there's no comments from the board, I will open it up to public input, just in case I don't see anybody in the chambers. Maybe I see Joan maybe have something, I don't know. You do? Okay, please come to the mic, and we have these 3 minutes.
Joan Moss, what moratorium are you speaking of?
The moratorium is the moratorium on early activation permits that was implemented, I want to say, last year. Okay, so, any other comments from the community? Nope, I don't see anybody online either, so I'll bring it back to the board and close public input. Supervisor Sabatier.
I just wanted to check in. This resolution would at least extend, would open up early activations for this Monday, because at this point, the moratorium is over by the 24th.
I'm sorry, sir. The resolution would open it up?
Well, no, the resolution is basically stating what early activation is, and at this point in time, because the 24th is the deadline for the moratorium, it would open it up on the 25th, and then on the 26th, we would consider changing that.
That's right,
Okay.
unless you...
I just wanted to clarify
Yes.
and make sure I understood.
But you're not taking action, it was my understanding, on the resolution today, because you didn't think that was effective.
So if we-
Or are you?
Well, if we don't take action,
Yeah, we would.
can we not take action and it just?
Oh, no, you absolutely can. I can tell you that in reviewing a number of those applications and background with Ms. Darby, most of them can be readily just rejected on their face, because if they say grading, construction, or trees, it's just a non-starter. So you don't have to do any kind of environmental analysis. It's more akin to if you're asking for a permit to do something that is beyond the scope of the licensure. So in this case, it should be relatively simple, but there would be that 2-day gap.
And while I feel that the ordinance pretty much states what's already written in the language of what early activation is, I do feel okay with moving forward and at least making the statement that is effective July 25th is what will occur, and so on and so forth.
I think if I'm,
Yes.
with the indulgence of the board and Ms. Darby, I think the point of the resolution was largely for your board to make it clear to staff that your expectation is that the ordinance as written would be adhered to. And that's what this does. Because a resolution essentially states policy or viewpoint. It doesn't take the place of an ordinance.
All right.
So if your board wishes to adopt the ordinance, you would just simply offer it after you've had whatever further discussion you'd like to have.
Okay, and so, from what I understood earlier, we were going to wait for your draft of the urgency ordinance and then something else, and then we weren't going to take action on this, or we're going to?
I would like to offer the resolution when the board is done with the conversation, just to be very clear as to what our expectations are from this board, and also clear to the public as to what will be occurring.
And Mr. Chair, just for clarification, you'd still move forward on the 26th
Okay.
with the 2 documents that you've directed me to prepare.
I'm fine then. Thank you. Thank you for that. Any other? All right. I think it's just time for action.
I offer the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Scott?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. And so we'll be looking for next week on that. Thank you, Ms. Grant, for that. Next is 7.4, consideration of Second Amendment to the Abandoned Vehicle Towing and Disposal Services Agreement with Kelseyville Auto Salvage Towing to increase the fiscal year 21 and 22 limit by $5,500 and fiscal year 22-23 by $10,000, and approve the chair to sign. With that, we will, this is Director Darby's as well, or Marcus's. It's okay. Let's see if he's here. Well, I'm not seeing him, so we'll... What I can do is, we can go on to 7.5, or...
Pam.
Oh, Pam? Yeah, Pam's here, so we'll go on to 7.5, and we'll...
Just sending her.
She almost walked out.
Consideration of update on HR's recruitment process for the Community Development Director position. With that, we have Pam Samick, and we'll go from there.
Good afternoon. Pam Samick, Director of HR. On Tuesday, July 12th, the Community Development Director submitted her resignation in light of the challenging efforts to recruit for department heads and senior management positions. We wanted to review the process for the Director of Community Development. We have, sorry, I'm congested here. We opened up the recruitment on July 14th for continuous and promotional recruitment. We are going to leave it open until filled. We're going to do a first review on Tuesday, August 9th. Should we not get a decent candidate pool of qualified candidates, then we'd like to put it out to our recruitment agencies and have a professional recruiter recruit for it. But first, like we did with the CAO, we kind of want to see where we're going to get with it and see if we get a good candidate pool, because we've been having good luck recently with getting some really great candidates. So we'd like to open it and see where we get. In the meantime, in the background, put out a request for the 10 agencies that we're currently using to bid to recruit that. And then after we review any qualified applicants, we'd like to set up interviews with the board and go from there. And so we'd like to get some direction if you guys feel that's an appropriate way to move, or if you want to do the recruiter in conjunction with us opening it.
All right. Any questions? Supervisor Spatier?
I think it's difficult to say if we have a good applicant, if we have not spread the biggest net that we can cast out to catch all the fish. And so I think when it comes to a director, we should immediately be going with a recruiting firm and trying to go that route. I think it's possible to do both at the same time. That way we can collect both levels of applicants, but I would like to see us always casting the furthest and widest net that we can in order to grab as many people, because then we can really truly compare all of them rather than having an isolated group and trying to compare them to a group that we can't possibly compare or contrast to because we don't see them.
true, but if we get a good candidate pool, we're going to save that 25 to 30,000 with the recruiting agency, because you're going to be paying that once you sign a contract with them, and that's about what it cost for a department head based on the proposals that we received for CAO, kind of waiting in the background, and the PHO, which we're currently conducting. So you're going to spend that, and there's the potential that we could get 5 to 10 candidates. We recently did, recruitments for assistant CAO and got an excellent candidate pool. So I would advise waiting that 3-week period and seeing if we do get a good candidate pool. We're advertising in about 10 different places just to see, because just in the last 6 months, it seems as though we're getting a better candidate pool for senior positions. They can be challenging on the more technical positions. So I would love to see kind of what we get before we spend 25 to 30,000 on a recruiter.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yeah, so we were having a conversation about this yesterday, a different position. What are those other boards that you're advertising on? And I think that's important information for us to share.
Sure, ICMA, Careers in Government, CSAC, MMANC, PRISM, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, ZipRecruiter.
And NACO.
NACO.
And NACO, yes.
ABA.
The only acronym, I don't know, what's the MNAC?
MMANC.
I know all the other acronyms.
I'd have to look that up for you.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
I think we can move ahead with this recruitment. It's 3 weeks, and see what happens after 3 weeks.
Well, and we can put out a request for a bid to the agencies we're typically using, since that takes 1 or 2 weeks to get back. So at least that will be in play to see who responds. Unfortunately, recruiting agencies are so busy right now. In the last 3 that we have put out request for bids, we've gotten 2 that say, okay, we can do this. One, we're trying a new agency for our PHO, but the recruitment agencies that my director network uses, they're all really busy. They're coming back and saying, we're just too busy to even send you a quote. So things change. They may have some availability now. So I would today or this week send them a request for a bid so that they're already in play, so that if we don't get a good candidate pool, we're ready to execute and look at bids.
Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
Is there any kind of piggybacking that we can do with the PHO recruiter where it might cost us less than if it was a brand-new contract?
I could definitely talk to them. In fact, they will be here in person on Thursday to talk with HR and Public Health, so I could certainly propose that.
Just for comparison.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, I agree with that, seeing if we could get anything, if we do move forward with that agency, like I said, more than one department. Thank you for asking that question, Supervisor Sabatier, but I agree with moving forward with the 3 weeks and look where we are, look at the pool, look how we're going. So, Pam, I would agree with your suggestion anyway when you said it here that we move in that manner. But we know how hard it was to fill this position last time. I think we're going to end up potentially going out anyway. So anything you could do to work with those folks to see if we could save a little bit of money while we're doing that, I think is important. But I'm prepared to move forward with the internal recruitment and then looking down the road in about 3 weeks or so, like you say, to come back to see if we've got to make that other decision.
Director,
So in favor of your proposal.
Director Portney, I see your hand up.
Yes, good morning, Supervisors. and community. I just want to express appreciation to the leadership team who have been supporting and spearheading the recruitment process for public health officer. Again, this is not an easy task. The task may be easy, but the recruitment process with the candidacy pool is slim. So I did have the opportunity to speak with Ron Chapman. He is the executive director of the California Department of Public Health. And I just want to express to the board and to the residents of the county that we're not alone and we're not unique in our inability to recruit for this position, as well as nurses, as well as a lot of healthcare professionals. So we're not alone in this. Surrounding counties, especially those who are in rural remote,
He's confused.
we're experiencing this a gap in being able to fill this. So just appreciation and just to add a little
Director Portney,
understanding about why this may take a little bit more.
We're referring to the Community Development Director, not the PHO.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I heard PHO.
Oh, no, it was just mentioned as an opportunity to look at possibly working with that recruitment and piggybacking this on that, or something of that nature, but it was only just mentioned. It wasn't on the agenda for this one.
Sorry about that. I'm going to sticky note that sentiment for when the PHO thing comes up at some point in the future.
All right. Thank you. All right.
And the one thing that I forgot to mention in this memorandum is that as we move forward with the CDD director, that maybe we could hold or pre-approve a couple of dates for interviews so we don't have to take such a long time to turn it around. So if we could look at calendars and potentially hold open an interview date shortly after the first review, so we could get it in your calendars just in case.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Do you have any timelines? You said 3 weeks for the first one. What's the timeline if after 3 weeks we do not have what we feel is a good candidate to fill the position? What is the timeline to get a recruiting company on board, doing their process, getting to the interview, and then in comparison to our November 4th timeline? And that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. Are we going to see a gap? Is it possible to be completed before November 4th? Just kind of wanted to see where that falls.
It's hard to say. It's currently open. We have our first review August 9th. So I think we'll know on August 9th what the candidate pool is. We have one current qualified applicant who's applied. And we'll see, but like I said, I will be reaching out to the 10 agencies that we have been in contact with to see if there's an interest for this recruitment and already have the bids in place.
No, but I guess my question is more, what do you think is the average timeline for when we ask a recruiter to help for them to get started? And I know that there's potential for multiple interviews,
Sure.
But if everything works out well, is it possible to go through that process, then go to the recruiter and still meet our November 4th? I don't want to call it a deadline, but it would be nice to have a little bit of continuity rather than a gap.
Sure. I think it will be possibly easier with the CDD director, but once we engage a recruitment firm, you're probably 30 days out, so 2 weeks to 30 days before you're looking at candidates. And the one thing that our agency we're working with now for the PHO recommended is that we do set aside weekly to biweekly interview time so that we interview as soon as we get a good qualified candidate, not maybe wait to get 5 candidates to compare and contrast. Because if you had a excellent candidate with wonderful experience, I think you can make an assessment, will this person work and be able to achieve the goals that you have for the new CDD director? and make a decision on a great candidate. I don't think I don't believe that you have to have 4 or 5 to compare and contrast if you have one great candidate.
Supervisor Pyska?
So I have availability all the Friday afternoons in August if we want to do interviews then. If you wanted to, were you looking for like the 12th?
I was looking, so if we have our first review August 9th, I would love to have something set up that week, so that if we do have multiple qualified candidates, we can do first-round interviews.
Chair, I think Susan has a.
Susan?
I also have a recommendation, given it's the end of summer and everyone's very busy, we could make this a standing item on the closed session, and as the candidates come forward, we can set aside that time. Just another alternative, given everyone's schedules.
I like that idea myself.
That's good. Thanks.
So do I.
Because then we could slide CDD director or PHO in.
That was
No,
my,
you can't do that.
no, we
You have
have
them
to, we
both.
Oh,
have
does it
to,
have to be specific?
yeah, it does.
So we could have standing for both? So can we say it'll be a PHO interview or it'll be a
Well,
CDD?
by Thursday of the week before.
Or you could
that
have them on the
determination.
agenda, and if you don't have candidates to.
We can say no candidate
just no
available?
candidates.
Yeah, you just don't take
Just
action,
just keep it on the
and
agenda.
it's set aside, yeah.
That sounds good.
Yes.
If you don't have candidates, you don't have candidates. But if you do, have it on the calendar.
That way we could slide either position
I won't be here.
into it and be proactive about having a slot available.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Limited time. I like words like fill rather than slide. Fill the slot. Okay, let's see, anything else? No? Okay. We'll open it up to public input. Looks like we have somebody in the chambers and someone on Zoom. We'll go ahead and start with the, Joan, if you'd like to come to the microphone and please state your name for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Joan Moss, I'd like to know where I can find the resolution that you're going to pass today. And I'd like to know, are we already,
Joan, this is about the, filling the CDD position.
yes.
Okay.
I want to know, are we also recruiting again for a PHO? It's confusing what you're saying.
Yes, that was stated earlier as well, so it's both happening simultaneously. So, thank you. We'll go to Betsy Kahn. If you can unmute, we'll give you 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question about the list of the 10, I believe it was 10 agencies that Pam referred to. I'm wondering if one of those is the same agency that you hired last June in 2021 to recruit for the CDD director that we now have. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, no, they're not on the list.
They're not. Is there some particular reason why not?
We've just decided to move in a different direction.
Oh. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other public input? And not seeing any, or, yes, come on up.
I was just going to recommend to Pam to add to the list of the ones that they're reaching out to is the American Planning Association, because that's where all the certified planners are, and you'll find some really great candidates there.
Thank you, Mary. All right, with that, I'll close public input, bring it back to the board, and we will, let's see, I think we just need direction, right? And so do you have the direction you need?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're, Ms. Grant, are we on?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll say yes, but I mean, we have 3, so. Thank you, Pam. Thank you very much. And we're good to go. We will move back to our 7.4, consideration of a second amendment to the abandoned vehicle towing and disposal services agreement with Kelseyville Auto Salvage Towing to increase the fiscal year 21-22 limit by $5,500 and fiscal year 22-23 by $10,000, and approve the chair to sign. With that, we will get Mr. Beltramo, if you can You can come sit up front with us if you'd like.
Okay. Obviously, we submitted an amendment to the current contract to raise the annual compensation limits for Kelseyville Auto Tow and Salvage, I believe is the full name there. These compensation limits, by raising them, will allow us to pay our vendor, our contractor, and then to also proceed and move forward with the towing services for the abandoned vehicle abatement program.
All right. Any questions from the board? Supervisor Sabatier?
So I had two questions. One is, do you know if you're using 22-23 funds to pay for the 21-22 contract? Or if you're using the 21-22 funds to pay for the 21-22 contract?
So my understanding is that we're in the second year of this contract here, and the funds, my understanding, as it was explained to me through my accountant and based on a recommendation, I believe that came from that recommendation that came from the auditor's office, is that the bills that are the invoices that have not been paid will be paid, but it'll be retroactive to the last fiscal year. And then that way it will not put any kind of burden on this year's fiscal budget for AVA, or hinder our AVA funds that are currently in place.
Okay, and that's what I was wanting to make sure, is we're not reducing already the services that we would be able to provide for this year. I do know in conversations with Mr. Beltramo that I was concerned at the low number of the contract, and came to a realization that I had forgotten that we have other towing contracts that add up to a much larger amount, because this seemed like a month's worth of work almost in the total grand scheme of the number of vehicles that we deal with on an annual basis through AVA. So I appreciate that conversation. I did have another conversation, and I just wanted to ensure and allow Mr. Beltramo to respond. Have protections been put into place to ensure that we don't go over our appropriations in the future?
Yes. Now we have a full-time accountant, an experienced accountant that we truly are grateful to have in our department. I had a discussion with this accountant this morning, and there are internal controls in place to make sure that we catch this in future instances and that we do not make this a last-second situation.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I appreciate those questions, obviously, because it's just such a limited amount of money that we have to stretch so far. So when we're doing these contracts, I appreciate that we've got the new accountant in position and making sure that we're looking at all these, because the amount we get is the amount we get, and it's a challenge every year, so make sure we do that. So thank you for being diligent on that, and obviously support this moving forward.
All right. I don't see any other comments from the board. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this item? I'm looking on Zoom, and I don't see any hands up, so I'll go ahead and bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the Second Amendment to the Abandoned Vehicle Towing and Disposal Services Agreement with Kelseyville Auto Salvage Towing to increase the fiscal year 21-22 limit by $5,500 and fiscal year 22-23 by $10,000, and approve for the chair to sign.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Beltramo.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I think that covers everything but calendars, so I'll go to calendars, and we'll start with Supervisor Sabatier.
So I have LAFCO and AVA tomorrow. Gonna try to finish that database by Thursday and bring it in for seeing if it's possible to implement that into the network on Thursday. I have an IFT meeting on Thursday, as well as starting off the day with Judge's Breakfast, finishing off with the Clear Lake City Council meeting at the end of that day. Meeting with some constituents throughout Friday, hoping to go into the Lake County, the Housing Navigator meeting. as I'm trying to take part in the 100-day challenge to try and work with homelessness, and we're aiming towards youth, and there was something else, but I forget what the other goal is, but I know that we were aiming for youth to provide the help there. And so I wanted to learn more through the Lake County Housing Navigation meeting to better understand the housing situation and how it is that we find more landlords that are willing to participate in the program. And then so far, I do not have anything other than my CAO meeting on Monday, and then back here on Tuesday.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yeah, tomorrow I actually have some time to catch up on things, which I'm really happy about. Before I get started, last week, on Friday, we had multiple tree mortality meetings. There's a lot of pieces that are moving and a lot of partners that are working on it, and so we just continue to be developing that strategy. It was the Tree Mortality Task Force with all the different partners, PG&E, and everybody else, and then our staff meeting. So just want to let you all know that we're continuing that work. And then Monday, yesterday, Cal OES came up yesterday morning, and we had a kickoff meeting. It was for the Jumpstart grant. So they've selected 3 applicants in the state of California, and they came up and said that they love to use Lake County now as to basically try out these new programs. So this is just another pilot that we're engaged in with them, along with home hardening, to make some real fundamental changes for municipalities around the state. So it's really exciting. They're really excited. We're really excited. We're going to be bringing some things shortly here to get that position filled. So I will let Supervisor Simon report out on the rest of the day, which was risk reduction authority stuff. But we have a lot of momentum right now, and it's really exciting. So Thursday's morning is the Best Fits Grants meeting, and then I have an invitation to the Pathways Hub stakeholders meeting, which I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to that. The Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force meeting is the state task force meeting. It starts at 1. I had gotten mixed messages on where that is. It is hybrid. It is also, you can go live in Sacramento, so I'm making a decision about that, if I'll be going in person or not, but it will overlap with the Disaster Council, so I won't be able to make that either way. And then in the evening, I have the Cauberry Council, but it's also the Kelseyville Street Dance. So that's a really busy day. Friday, I have our weekly staff tree meeting, and Monday, meeting with Susan, and then back on Tuesday. That's it.
All right, Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, so, I'll start out obviously too with, the Cal OES meeting yesterday, like Supervisor Pyska said, in the exact grant number, I'm probably going to get wrong, but just over $640-something thousand for a 5-year position. We'll be moving that, once the board accepts the grant and we move forward with that. But as just Supervisor Pyska said, these programs, these pilot programs that we're going to be bringing into the county, home hardening, and obviously the Jumpstart program, a partnership with the state and Cal OES, how we build these things forward, because this, we're in the beginning stages here, but this capacity building is going to be very important for all the other counties that may be able to get in on this in the future if that's going to happen. So excited about those opportunities here. And the one thing we're always talking about, capacity. How do we tie all the work that's being done with the Risk Reduction Authority, all of our nonprofits, the cities, everybody, how do we tie it all together? And this person is going to be very key with that. Not only outreach, but collaboration, education, and boots on the ground. Myself and Supervisor Pyska, we push ourselves as hard as we can with this issue, but we really need someone that the public can go to directly all the time that is there and just help move us forward. And we have so many partners that are at the table at the Risk Reduction Authority. I appreciate each and every one of them, and we're just working on building it out. We got to, upgrade our bylaws. We're growing faster than we ever expected, but we'll continue doing all that hard work and making sure everybody buys in. The one conversation is the benefit. The benefit is collaboration and really starting to get noticed by the state of what we're doing here. I think we're a model in Lake County on how we do this for collaboration, because we can't do this alone as a county, and we need to just bring everyone to the table. And every month, it seems like there's somebody else. Callaway asks, hey, can we come to those meetings? Absolutely. We need you at the table. BLM, U.S. Forest Service, PG&E, all those folks that are doing work here. We're even getting Caltrans once in a while. We need to continue to push on them. So, I'm excited about that, what we're growing here, because whether we're in these seats or anybody else, is something that's going to benefit, the county for a long term. And I know right now, what we talk about in the Risk Reduction Authority is always heavy weighted toward the fires, because that's what we're dealing with. But when we started this, we had early conversations. Earthquake hasn't hit us yet. Hit Napa area, hasn't hit us yet, but it's coming. So we got drought, we got all these other things. So looking at expanding that capacity, that's why it's a climate resilience officer, not just someone incoming for just fire science and other things. So that'll be a neat position that we're able to recruit with, and we have the grants and the funds to do that. So I'm excited about that opportunity. And just as we said, yeah, some of them the first time they were here with the Callaway-S team that was here to Lake County, just keep them coming and see what else we can do to partnership with. So excited about that opportunity. We also had the CMAT committee. The CMAT, the Community Mitigation Assistance Team, was something we did over a year ago, first time in California's history, and partnership that we brought in. So we have a CMAT reporting committee to kind of implement the things that came with that report, how we keep building. There's a big conversation about building the Firewise communities, building the fire safe councils, and how we do those things. And so we're just going to keep learning those type of things. I think the number that we were given was, and you can help me with this, Jessica, there's 16 Firewise communities now?
Was it 16 or 17?
16 or 17. Yeah. And we're constantly talked to it about, there's probably going to be 25 or 30 before we kind of cap out, I think, in the whole area. Maybe I'm throwing a number out there that ain't, but it's going to be in that range. But then that also gives the opportunity for them to go after funding opportunities, the updating of CWPP, all the work that we're doing. These communities can go after grants and opportunities too. So like we said, just the RRA being a supporting umbrella for all these agencies to help them move out. So it's great to hear. And I don't know, but I heard Clear Lake is interested in their area to get a Firewise community. I think there's meetings happening tomorrow. So we've got all the folks at the table and collaborating in the right direction. There will be some contract stuff coming from the RRA to the board. We're looking potentially do a 6-month contract. We are talking with a lot of the partners that are part of the RRA to get some skin in the game and look at member contributions. So that's a conversation happening as we look for this budget. But it's a budget amount probably of about $50,000 a year that we look for just coordination, collaboration, and other things. So we have some proposals we'll come in with you back to the board with. We'll continue that work. So I know it's a lot, but it's what's happening. So we'll go from there. Tomorrow I have LAFCO and also have the AVA meeting tomorrow. So those are both here in Lakeport with Supervisors Sabatier. Thursday looks like the Best Fish Grant meeting at 10 a.m. Friday we still have the staff tree meetings. I know Scott's on vacation right now, so it's going to be us, right? Mm-hmm. We'll be following up on that. I have Susan in the morning. We're not going to be meeting on Monday, Susan, but and then back here on Tuesday. I did attend the math meeting last week, moving through on those processes. The interesting proposal, there's a proposal at the math meeting that I thought it was a pretty neat idea by the Middletown Arts Center. They're going to be going for a grant to potentially for our area, my district, Calliomi Water District, a partnership. Murals are big. I know Supervisor Sabatier, you're a big part of that. But it was an interesting concept floated to to paint one of the water tanks in as a tribal basket, which is really unique opportunity. So I think that's a great partnership, a unique opportunity. But the arts, since this board has, we said, yeah, we're going to support the arts here in Lake County, the work that's being done by you in Clear Lake with the fish statues, the murals, and then all throughout the county, the other mural that's right here in Lakeport. I think that's awesome. You got to drag me. I'm not an artist. I can't draw or anything. I can see neat stuff, but it's really unique because I think it just is opening up so much more stuff, just as music and other things, but the arts are really taking off here in Lake County, and I'm excited about that proposal. That's pretty neat.
Which water tank?
The Calliope Water District, the two up on the mountain,
Up on that Rabbit Hill?
up on Rabbit Hill.
Oh, so it's a
which is
hiking destination.
Yeah, which is
Oh,
pretty
that's
cool.
awesome.
So, anyway, that's early stages, but the math group, obviously always attend those, and, we'll just keep moving forward, with those momentum things down there. There is, some other information too, just on fire. I was informed yesterday, that they've got some dipping tanks that will be coming into the communities. District 1, I think, or in my district, and up towards Cobb are looking to get District 1 and 5. And these are tanks, so they go drop in the lake, but with the drought, the lakes are drying up, the little ponds and stuff, so they got to fly a little farther to get back to a fire. So they're going to be putting these things, I think Calliope Water District's going to be hooking one up. It looks like a big dumpster where you can check your trash or metal in, but it's full of water. It has a gauge where as soon as they dip, it refills itself. So something that they can just attack things a lot quicker. We've got the equipment now with the helicopter up on the mountain, the bigger one, so excited about those opportunities. I know it's not fun to talk about fire all the time, but it's fire season, it's here, and we need to keep those things on mind, so that's it. That's all I got.
Vice Chair Scott.
And talking about fire season, the Scotts Valley community is working on being a fire-wise community too.
They
So
are.
We're working on that. I have a pretty open calendar, just wrapping things up and tying things up for my departure next week. Not really much on the calendar. I'll be attending the chamber luncheon on Thursday at 11:45 in Kelseyville. And then I have my last Scotts Valley community meeting at 5 o'clock. So we'll be working with them with transition, working with Supervisor Crandall to make sure that they have Zoom links and the proper, whatever they need to be able to move forward till this spot is filled and there's a supervisor here. So that's basically it.
Thank you. I'll start off with a report from last week. I had the Cannabis Ad Hoc Committee with RCRC, members from Trinity County, Mono County, El Dorado, Humboldt, San Luis Obispo, and Siskiyou County. Pretty much well-versed when you in the consideration of cannabis. Of course, Humboldt County has the aspects of what's already been done and how we can learn from what they've done. And then you have counties like Siskiyou where there's no cannabis that's allowed for permitting there at all. And so what they're struggling with is, of course, illicit grows, and that's the main idea for topic when it comes to this committee is trying to tackle the illicit issue. Very similar issues we all deal with in this county, and that is more focus is basically on the licensees or the permits or whoever the case may be, and all these illicit groups are just kind of like left in the dust and allowed to do what they can. And so we're having these meetings. We also had the State Water Resources Control Board guest speakers, Yvonne West and Michael Buckman, and he's from the Cannabis Enforcement Program Coordinator. He was there they were giving us some insight as to what they've been doing and what types of initiatives that they'll be looking forward to tackle this problem with the illicit grows as well. And it's I would like to make a call to them and talk more about it, and maybe even work with our code enforcement and whatnot to start getting in a position to start dealing with this, because it's just an ongoing issue. And I'm glad that we have this committee, because it also gives us a chance to craft some policy so that RCRC can do more work in advocating for us to lobby on the State Hill for some of this funding to ensure we get the resources we need to deal with illicit cannabis. And so that was that meeting. Let's see, tomorrow I have North Shore Business Association agenda review following that. West Region Town Hall in Upper Lake. Thursday, I have the Lucerne Area Town Hall. I know we met last week, but it was a special meeting. So they chose to have a regular meeting this Thursday, and from here forward, the Lucerne Area Town Hall meetings will be the third Thursday. It's back to that again. We recently had somebody resign, and so now we have a new chair, and so they decided to have it the third Thursday, which is good. Now we don't conflict with math anymore, because I know there's a couple times we've asked people to come to the meeting, and they're like, I'm going to the Middletown Town Hall. So now, because there was
Should be, it's district, so.
right. So yeah, now that we're on the third Wednesday rather than the second, there's no conflict, so, yeah. But either way. Let's see. Friday is pretty open, but what I do is I, tackle the other things that I'm working on. Monday, CAO meeting, and then I have a meeting with Flock Safety. All of the cameras have been installed, so we're going to do a review and also look at potential situations where some of the placement. But all in all, from what I understand and from what I've seen in the reports that I've got, they're all in working order. And they're actually taking decent pictures and footage of license plates. However, there are some concerns, and we also are going to look at, because these Flock cameras, and it was done in the presentation, but I'll just remind you that they take a solar panel, and then they also require not Wi-Fi, but you need like a Verizon tower or something like that. That type of data to run the camera. I'm sorry. And so going to be doing that tour, and be back here on Tuesday. So aside from that, that covers my calendar. Anybody else have anything else they forgot?
Yeah, I missed one, got talking so much I forgot. I will be attending the Disaster Council on Thursday at 3 p.m. here in the chambers.
All right. With that, it looks like we are on our closed session items. And so I'll read those off. 8.1, conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2E1, one potential case. 8.2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Citizens for Environmental Protection and Responsible Planning et al. Versus County of Lake et al. 8.3, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Center for Biological Diversity et al. Versus County of Lake. With that, we will go into closed session. Thank you.